So the first video hit, and based on what happened in the comments, based on the Freightliner drivers who showed up to defend their trucks and the Peterbilt people who showed up to agree and the fleet managers who showed up with their own numbers, it became very clear that we only scratched the surface. We covered the basics, the fuel economy, the purchase price, the dealer network, the resale value, the driver retention math, the basics. But the comments told me what the basics left out. And there were three subjects that kept coming up over and over again in ways that told me we needed a part two. Three things that almost nobody in the mainstream trucking media is covering, honestly. Three things that are costing drivers and fleet managers real money right now in 2026. And three things that completely change the financial comparison between these two trucks in ways that the spec sheets and the brochures will never show you. The first one is the nuclear verdict crisis. The second one is the Cascadia's aftertreatment problem that the 2020 to 2023 model years have been quietly dealing with. And the third one is the thing that happened in the comments of the first video that no fleet manager ever factors into a truck purchasing decision, but that every driver already knows is true. This is part two. And it goes places the first video did not go. Let us start with the nuclear verdict crisis, because this is the most important financial story in American trucking right now, and it connects directly to which truck you should be driving. The commercial trucking insurance market continues its tumultuous trajectory, with motor carriers facing mounting pressures from skyrocketing premiums, nuclear verdicts, and increasingly stringent underwriting requirements. The industry has experienced a staggering 235% increase in verdicts exceeding $1 million since 2012. A single accident can threaten the financial viability of an entire operation. Cars for sale, 235% increase in million-dollar-plus verdicts since 2012. Let that number sit for a moment. Not a 20% increase, not a 50% increase, 235%. And the median nuclear verdict, the typical massive payout when a trucking company loses a serious lawsuit, has now reached a number that will genuinely shock you. The median nuclear verdict has skyrocketed to $51 million. At the same time, with current federal minimum financial responsibility levels remaining unchanged since 1985 at $750,000, $50,000, $50,000 for the transportation of property, a carrier's mandated insurance now covers less than 1.5% of a median major award. Wilson Auto, less than 1.5%. The minimum insurance that the federal government requires a truck to carry covers less than 1.5% of the median award when a trucking case goes nuclear in court. That gap between $750,000 of required coverage and $51 million of median verdict is the gap that is bankrupting small carriers and costing owner-operators everything they have built. For owner-operators and small carriers, the threat of nuclear verdicts directly affects insurance availability, operating costs, and the ability to stay in business. Any discussion of solutions must account for how these legal and economic pressures disproportionately impact small, independent trucking operations. Walwork Trucks commercial auto liability insurance has been unprofitable for insurance companies 14 consecutive years, creating sustained upward pressure on pricing. Cars for sale, 14 consecutive years of unprofitable commercial auto liability insurance. 14 years of insurance companies losing money on trucking policies, and every year of that loss gets passed forward into the next year's premiums, which is why owner-operators who paid $12,000 per year for insurance in 2018 are paying $18,000 to $22,000 per year in 2026 for the same coverage on the same routes. Not because they had accidents, not because their safety record got worse, but because a jury in Missouri awarded $450 million in punitive damages against a trailer manufacturer for a crash caused by a drunk driver who ran into a nearly stopped trailer. And because the entire industry pays for every verdict regardless of fault. Now here is where this connects directly to the Peterbilt versus Freightliner comparison in a way that nobody is talking about. The truck you drive affects your insurance rate, not just your safety record and your CSA score and your years of experience. The truck, its safety technology, its data recording capabilities, its ADA's systems. And here is the specific fact that fleet managers and owner-operators need to hear right now. New safety technology has heightened excessive truck litigation by generating additional data for plaintiff attorneys to use. Rising nuclear verdicts are driving up insurance. Premiums and legal costs straining already thin fleet profit margins. Fleets are adopting ADAs and AI dashcams to reduce crashes, provide legal protection, and lower insurance expenses. Walwork Trucks fleets must face the threat head-on, and technology has proven the way to strike back. In the cab itself, this means advanced driver assistance systems including collision mitigation lane, keep assist, and blind spot monitoring. These are always active and provide surface-level protection. Walwork Trucks, the trucks with more comprehensive active safety systems, are not just safer on the road, they are more defensible in court. Every mile logged with collision mitigation active, every lane departure alert recorded, every automatic brake application documented. All of that is data that a defense attorney can use to demonstrate that the carrier invested in safety, that the driver was operating a truck designed to prevent exactly the kind of incident that the plaintiff is suing over. And insurance underwriters are beginning to price that difference directly into premiums. A lot of providers that historically never factored any sort of technology into their underwriting are now offering discounts for motor carriers to share their telematics data, install cameras in their trucks, and so on. Cars for sale here is the practical implication for this comparison. Both Peterbilt and Freightliner offer comprehensive ADAS packages. Both offer collision mitigation, lane keeping, stability control. But the Detroit Assurance Suite on the Freightliner Cascadia has been the standard setting. Safety package in the fleet market for longer, it has more accumulated real-world data, more documented accident prevention performance, and more established relationships with insurance underwriters who know how to price it. For a fleet manager in 2026, trying to get the best possible insurance rate on 100 trucks that establish track record with underwriters is a concrete financial advantage for Freightliner that goes beyond the safety statistics themselves. Peterbilt is catching up on this front aggressively. The Bendix Fusion Suite is genuinely comprehensive, but Freightliner's safety technology has been the fleet insurance benchmark for longer. And in a world where the median nuclear verdict is $51 million and insurance premiums have been rising for 14 consecutive years, the truck that gets you the best insurance rate is worth more than the fuel economy comparison suggests. Now, let us talk about the second thing the first video left out, the Cascadia aftertreatment problem. Aftertreatment system issues some 2020 to 2023 models have reported DPF regeneration and DEF quality sensor problems. Budget for potential aftertreatment repairs on used units. Walwork Trucks, that is from a 2026 trucking industry guide ranking day cab trucks for owner-operators. A current published researched guide recommending that buyers budget specifically for aftertreatment repairs on used 2020 to 2023 Cascadias. That is not a minor caveat. That is a direct financial warning from people who have looked at real repair data from real trucks in real fleet operations. The diesel particulate filter regeneration problems and the diesel exhaust fluid quality sensor failures that have shown up in the 2020 to 2023 Cascadia generation are not catastrophic engine failures. They are exactly the kind of recurring annoyance that does not show up in a new truck purchase decision, but absolutely shows up in the total cost of ownership calculation 2 years into the ownership cycle. A DPF regeneration failure at an inconvenient time means a truck that goes into limp mode or shuts down on the side of the highway. A DEF quality sensor failure means a warning light and a shop visit and downtime that nobody planned for. And here is the thing about the Cascadia's aftertreatment system that experienced Freightliner mechanics will tell you honestly when nobody from the marketing department is in the room. The Detroit emissions system is sophisticated. It is well engineered, but it is also sensitive in ways that demand rigorous maintenance discipline. The DEF quality matters. The DPF service intervals matter. The region's cycles matter. A fleet with a disciplined, well-funded maintenance program running new Cascadias on consistent routes will never see these problems. An owner-operator running a used 2021 Cascadia at high miles with variable fuel and DEF quality may see them regularly. The 2012 Cascadia I drove had DEF failures out the wazoo after only 220,000 miles on the engine. Peterbilt, that is from Truckers Report, a real driver, 220,000 miles. DEF failures, not at 1 million miles, at 220,000 miles. That is the kind of experience that does not appear in a spec sheet comparison or a fuel economy test, but that shows up every time that driver gets a warning light at 2 a.m. on the interstate. Now here is the Peterbilt side of this. The Packard MX-13's aftertreatment system has its own sensitivities. No modern diesel engine with full emissions compliance is immune to aftertreatment issues, but the PECAR system, because it is engineered and supported entirely in-house, has the advantage of SmartLink Remote diagnostics that actively monitors the aftertreatment system and sends alerts before a minor issue becomes a forced roadside shutdown. The truck is watching its own emission systems continuously and communicating what it finds. That proactive monitoring capability does not eliminate after-treatment problems, but it dramatically reduces the probability that a minor sensor issue turns into a forced shutdown on the side of Interstate 80 at midnight. Now let us talk about the third thing, the thing that came out of the comments of the first video. The thing that no fleet purchasing analysis ever includes, but that every driver already knows. In the first video, I talked about driver retention. I said that the quality of the equipment affects how long drivers stay with a carrier. I said that putting drivers in a Peterbilt instead of a Cascadia can pay for purchase premium in reduced turnover costs before the first contract period ends. And the comments confirmed that in ways I did not anticipate. Driver after driver in the comments said the same thing in different ways. They said I left that company because of the equipment, not the pay, not the routes, the equipment, the truck I was put in every day. And when they left that company, they went somewhere else, or went independent, or bought their own truck. And the carrier lost not just a driver, but all the training investment and institutional knowledge and customer relationship continuity that driver carried with them. When I drove a Peterbilt for the first time, I instantly became a Peterbilt guy. At the end of the day, Peterbilt is soul as much as specs. Chrome heritage, that certain feel behind the wheel. It will not beat Freightliner on MPG, but that is not why drivers choose them. They choose them because nothing else feels like one. Commercial Carrier Journal now let me connect that feeling to a real business number. Between 2020 and 2023, the average trucking verdict was about $27.5 million, illustrating how nuclear awards have become more common. These massive judgments are driven by severe crashes that cause serious injuries, or deaths often coupled with claims of driver fatigue and inadequate safety culture. FreightWave's driver fatigue. That phrase appears in nuclear verdict after nuclear verdict as a contributing factor cited by plaintiff attorneys, not necessarily proven fatigue, alleged fatigue. The claim that the carrier's equipment, culture, and operational decisions contributed to a driver being fatigued at the moment of an incident. And here is the connection that nobody is making in the mainstream trucking conversation. A driver who is less tired, who is in a quieter, more ergonomically optimized, more comfortable cab, is a driver who is less likely to make the fatigue-related error that creates the incident that triggers the lawsuit that results in the nuclear verdict. The Peterbilt's premium interior is not just a luxury feature. In the nuclear verdict era, it is a risk management tool. The quieter cab, the better insulation, the ultra-loft sleeper that actually lets a driver rest properly, the ergonomic layout that reduces the physical strain of long-hour operation. All of these features reduce driver fatigue. Reduced driver fatigue reduces incident probability. Reduced incident probability reduces nuclear verdict exposure. And reduced nuclear verdict exposure reduces insurance premiums. Nobody runs that math when they are deciding between a Cascadia and a Peterbilt, but the math is real. And in an era where the median nuclear verdict is $51 million and commercial auto liability insurance has been unprofitable for 14 years, consecutive years, the truck that keeps its driver more alert and less fatigued over a 600-mile day is worth more than the fuel economy comparison captures. Now, let me address something that the Freightliner community in the comments pushed back on hardest. Because fair is fair, and these people made real points that deserve to be addressed directly. The pushback came in three forms. First, Freightliner drivers said their trucks are not the freight shakers of 2015. The new generation Cascadia is significantly improved on noise and ride quality, and the comparison to what the Cascadia used to be is not a fair comparison to what it is today. They are right. Next-gen Freightliner models have greatly improved comfort. Modern Peterbilt 579 Ultra Lofts and Freightliner Cascadias are comparable in amenities. Wikipedia, the 2024 and 2025 Cascadia is a meaningfully better truck on interior comfort than the 2018 Cascadia. The gap between Peterbilt and Freightliner on noise and ride quality has narrowed. Not closed, Peterbilt still wins this category, but narrowed. And drivers evaluating a 2025 Cascadia based on the reputation of a 2015 Cascadia are not being fair to the engineering work Freightliner has done. Second, Freightliner drivers said the parts availability advantage is more significant than the first video communicated. And they are right about this too. Largest dealer network over 500 Freightliner dealers in the United States means parts and service are never far away, minimizing downtime for local operators. Wallwork trucks for an owner-operator who runs in markets without dense PACCAR dealer coverage, for a driver whose routes take them through rural territories where independent shops are the only roadside service option. The Cascadia's parts availability and the universal familiarity of the Detroit engine among independent mechanics is not a minor advantage. It is a genuine operational safety net that can be the difference between a 2-hour repair and a 12-hour truck down situation. Third, the Freightliner people said that for company drivers, for the drivers who are not buying the truck but are just operating it, the premium interior of the Peterbilt matters less than the fuel economy that determines whether their carrier makes a profit and keeps them employed.
And this is also true.
The driver who works for a carrier and does not own their truck has a different relationship with the equipment than the owner-operator who financed it. The carrier's financial health is ultimately what determines whether the company driver has a job. And if the fuel economy advantage of a Cascadia keeps the carrier more profitable and therefore more stable, that is a real benefit to the driver, even if the Peterbilt would have been more comfortable to sit in. All three of those points are fair. All three deserve to be acknowledged, and acknowledging them honestly is what makes this analysis more useful than a one-sided defense of either brand. So here is the updated picture, the complete picture, the one that includes everything the first video said and everything the first video left out. Choose the Freightliner Cascadia if you are a fleet operation prioritizing total cost per mile, if you value the established Detroit assurance safety track record with insurance underwriters, if your drivers primarily run the newer generation trucks rather than used units from the problematic 2020 to 2023 aftertreatment period, and if your routes are primarily in areas with dense Freightliner dealer coverage where the service network advantage is operationally real. Choose the Peterbilt if you are an owner-operator who will live in this truck and for whom the quality of the living environment affects your alertness and your health over hundreds of days on the road. If you are building an asset you plan to sell in 5 to 7 years and want the resale premium to be part of your financial return. If you are in the nuclear verdict era thinking about fatigue risk and driver satisfaction as genuine business risk factors rather than just quality of life considerations, and if the truck that you drive every day means something to you in a way that a cost per mile number will never fully capture, there is no best truck, only the best truck for your kind of work. The real split is not brand versus brand. It is uptime and operating cost versus comfort and feel versus vocational toughness. Commercial Carrier Journal that sentence from real drivers on real forums is the most honest conclusion anyone has ever written about this debate. And it is true today in 2026, just as it was true the day someone first typed it. The first video told you what most people know. This video told you what most people do not. And now you know both.